it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, it's Ivy Slater, and welcome back to another week of Her Success Story. For those of you who are just tuning in, thank you for joining us. For those of you who are subscribers, welcome back. If you're not a subscriber, hit subscribe. So, really special interview today. Today I'm interviewing a singer, pianist, songwriter, and performer. And why she's so special to me personally is Cindy Rainne's music opens her success story. So when we were first starting to come with a concept of what does Slater's success and Ivy Slater believe and see in importance of women and leadership in the world, I was connected to Cindy through a relationship. And when I heard the song, I was like, yes, do you think we can use it? Cindy and I have had the joy of getting to know each other. One of the really great things about Cindy that you're going to learn is her songs are about her journey to self-love. She early on believed she wasn't enough, and you can read a lot about this in her bio. So I'm not going to bore you with it. It's a journey many of us women have been on together, the questioning, the self-doubt, the self-belief. So in that, welcome, Cindy Rainne. I almost just want to have you sing, but hey, you can get that at the beginning of the beginning of the podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
I'm excited to be here with you too, Ivy. Thanks for having me.
So you got a lot of stuff going on, girlfriend. Share a little bit. What's up?
Yes. So I am releasing my debut EP, which is a mini album, next Friday, October 19th. I'm having a huge release party on October 20th. And this is really like the kickoff to my music career in a grander scale. So last year I released my single, and now this is like a much bigger project. I'm very, very excited.
Everybody can read, and in the show notes, they can go to your website, cindyrainne.com, and you guys are going to get all this. But there's some stories here because I think it's some really cool highlights of who you are as a woman. Of how did you end up producing your first EP? Okay, so were you? No, seriously. I mean, as we sit and giggle, like, were you found? Like, were you out there singing, and somebody said, okay, I'm gonna, I'm Simon Cowell, so to speak, or I'm Clive Davis, and come with me, young lady? Or what was your journey to doing this?
I decided I wanted to sing as a career when I was about 12. And I started writing my own songs and working with different writers and basically singing in basement studios all across Brooklyn. And the goal back then was to create a demo and shop it to, music industry folks and get signed. That never happened. So I went to college and majored in music. And even then, when I graduated, I was like, okay, so I'm going to write these songs and connect with different producers and create this demo and, reach out to music industry. And that never happened. I was just not able to find a producer who could give me that radio quality product that was a representative of me and that I felt proud of. So years later, my journey took me to North Carolina for school, and I ended up teaching high school chorus for 4 years, just, trying to get the real job with the benefits and make everybody else happy. After a few years of that, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm actually going to pursue this for real. So I moved back to New York in 2013, called up my parents and said, hey, can I move back in? Because I really want to pursue my dream. And thank God they said yes.
As a parent to adult children, it's either the greatest blessing or your worst nightmare phone call.
Yeah, I think it was the worst nightmare. I was 28 at the time, and they were just like, what? They were looking at me all set up with the stable job and the benefits, and I had just bought a house, and I was just like, nope, I don't want any of it.
So hold on a second. Let's look at this for a second. So you're 28 years old. Mm-hmm. You have a stable job. You have all the benefits, and you actually bought a home.
Yes.
Which is pretty awesome for a 28-year-old.
Yeah.
young adult.
Thanks.
So no, seriously. So you were set.
Yeah.
You were good. Like check, and I mean, it's coming from parents. Like it's like, okay, check, and check. My kid's good. You know, we'll vacation together, see each other on the holidays. Love you, buy you a present, and we're done. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just need to be clear.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
we went from that to, hey guys, can I come home? I need to work on my music career. And I had no job lined up. Like I just like resigned from my job on a whim and was like, yeah, I'm moving to New York. So I moved back, and that's when I started doing my research. And the first thing that I found out in my research is that people don't just get signed like that anymore. Like the days of just being discovered are pretty much over in general, because the music industry is a business and there's not as much money floating around anymore with like the advent of streaming and all this stuff. There just aren't A&R budgets. They're not picking up very raw talent and developing it. You're basically expected to come to the table as a finished product with an audience, and then they'll have a conversation with you. So I was just like, oh, so I need to do all this myself. Crap. So I started taking online courses, started like working on my songwriting skills. And in this one course I took with an artist mentor named Carrie Cold, it was called Your Exceptional Record. And she basically said, in order to create a record that lands, you need to do your research and find a producer in the music industry who's already doing the kind of music that you want. Like stop playing around with all these like little local guys who just aren't on that level, because you're going to end up with a product that's not on that level, and it's not going to take you anywhere. It's going to, like, the circles are going to be pretty small. So,
okay, so what I'm hearing you say is you have to actually produce some music and then sell that finished product that is, let's say, Hollywood or whatever quality, right?
mm-hmm.
As if it's going on the good old-fashioned radio like now.
Yes. Like as an independent artist, in order to, be signed, or even not, in order to have a very successful career, you have to figure this out yourself. And once you figure it out yourself and you're able to attain a certain amount of success on your own, then support will come in to help you. So like the big thing, say 10 years ago, was like, go get yourself a manager, because the manager is going to have connections and they're going to get to walk you in these doors. But the reality is a manager wants a percentage. Like the manager gets 20%. Right. And if you're not making any money, then 20% of zero is zero. So these days, a quality manager won't even take you on until you are already making money.
Okay. So then what did you do?
So I did some research, and I found a producer in the industry who did like this fusion style that I really liked. Someone told me that I sounded like an artist named Asha, French Nigerian artist. So I did some Google research, found her producer, and reached out to him. He was in Hastings in England. And I said, hey, I want to record with you. Like, how much is it going to cost? Like, I'll figure out the money, and like, let me know what it's going to take. So they told me the price, and I was just like, okay. And I set out to do this crowdfunding campaign. So
in order to, so he gives you a number, right? Mm-hmm. And now you, in order to find that number, because mm-hmm. you started your own crowdfunding campaign. So yes. We hear a lot of people who do this.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Yes.
It scares the hell out of me.
As it should. It's a very scary thing.
What was this like? I'm like, audience or not, like the listeners here are like tuning in right now. I am so curious about this. I'm like, I'm supposed to be asking these questions for all the listeners. This is all about Ivy in this moment. I'm really curious.
Okay, so it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life up until that point. And that was with me having done a ton of research before. So like, I strongly believe that success leaves clues. So there was no part of me that was just going to go out there and do a crowdfunding campaign until I felt like I was ready. So I took a couple of classes online to kind of like get the lay of the land and see what was going on in the world of crowdfunding. And even still, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. So one of the courses that I took, their advice was to look at the size of your list and create your goal based on the number of people that you actually know. And they had like a little calculator. They had a
Right.
calculator where you put your audience in and they tell you how much you could raise. And when I put the size of my audience in, they told me I could raise about $5,000 to $6,000. And I was like, well, I need 20. So I'm just gonna have to like jump out on a limb and make this happen. Because I had already, before I started my campaign, I had already booked my flight to England. So I was like, I put myself in a position where it had to work.
And there's a huge learning lesson here is you didn't say, okay, well, so what can I do for 5,000 to 6,000? You said, okay, well, I made a commitment to work with the producer. I booked a ticket to England to go work with the producer. I have the reach of $5,000 to $6,000. I need to quadruple it.
Mm-hmm.
How did you make it happen?
I literally reached out to over 1,000 people personally.
So when I talk about in teaching personal reach out, okay, and relationship building activities, and you and I can share the story of how we got together, and it's all based on relationships. The whole idea here is you didn't settle on what was factual. You went for what was possible, even if you didn't know how it was possible. And, you know, sometimes the hardest things is for creating a list and just reaching out to people. So you reached out to 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And
And
where did you find them?
Facebook, it was like elementary school classmates, high school classmates, middle school classmates, college classmates, people at the church that I was playing for at the time, just local business owners, just like anyone that I saw, anyone that I met. It was like I put it out there, and it took me a while to get to that point because, you know, I'm very idealistic. And the first half of my crowdfunding campaign, I was like, well, I'm just gonna post on social media and it's gonna come. And then in the middle of my campaign, I did a show that, you know, I thought of it as being almost like a telethon, and I was going to broadcast it live and people were going to call in and give me money. I made $20 as people were calling in. And then I didn't sell enough tickets because I wasn't really promoting the show like I was promoting everything else. So I ended up losing $1,100 on that show. And it was in smack dab in the middle of my crowdfunding campaign. And I was like, oh my God, if I don't get out there and talk to people, this is not going to happen. I have to get over my fear of rejection. Yes, I'm going to hear no's. I just have to get over it.
Right.
And within, I did most of my outreach in the last couple of weeks, like as it was, I had no choice. My back was against the wall. And the story is crazy because I chose to use Kickstarter as a platform because it's an all or nothing platform. So it would force me to get the 20,000 and not just settle for whatever I could get. And with the all or nothing platform, if you don't make 20,000, you get nothing. Like they just return everyone's money back.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It was 2 minutes before the deadline when I met the goal. I was sitting there like literally shaking, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So it's like, that's why I say it was like the hardest thing ever, because every day for 30 days, I was faced with oh crap, what if this doesn't happen? Oh crap, what if this doesn't happen?
So is that serendipitous? Is that like the universe delivers, or in the last X amount of, let's say 3 to 5 days, the efforts shifted or something in you shifted? Where did it come from?
It was all of the above.
Yeah.
So like there was definitely a shift. I just kept coming to my community. I was like, hey, I don't know how this is going to happen, but you know, we're going to make this happen. And like there was a strong sense of urgency and there was a lot of follow-up. So
okay, talk to us about the urgency and the follow-up, because these are basic business tools that I truly teach all the time. You know, people take action when it's urgent to them. And sales is based on understanding, delivering a solution to an urgent problem, not a casual problem. You know, and when I look at that is, if it's, you know, raining outside, are you going out barefoot? if you don't have shoes, if it's snowing outside, you know, you have to have shoes. That's an urgent problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's very true.
Yeah. So part of the urgency was created by me just doing countdowns, like every day on my social media for the last week. It was just like 7 more days, 6 more days. It's all or nothing. And I just continued to stress the fact that, like, I've been working really hard. You see me working really hard. If I don't get the full $20,000, like, all of this will be gone.
And nothing.
And I think that people really saw the effort. They saw it wasn't just me like, hey, give me some money. It wasn't that I was just looking for a handout. Like, they saw the work that was going into it. And then just the fact that it was all or nothing, like, people just really wanted to see me win. And towards the end, like, as the numbers started coming in, like, I was like very, very excited. So it was almost like people were at home on their computers and phones watching this like a reality show. Like, is she gonna make it? Is she gonna make it? Is she gonna make it? Oh, let me give her an extra $100. You know, let's help her make it. People who before were like, sorry, I can't help you, I don't have the money, we're like, all right, here's $100. So wow. That's, I can talk about the urgency. And then
the follow-up.
So I reached out to a lot of people who just ignored my messages. And in following up with them, especially in those last 3 days, a lot of them were like, oh, I forgot when you told me last time. And, you know, just brought it back to their remembrance, and then they just did it. And if I had gotten in my head about it, you know, like, oh, I don't want to bother them. And, you know, they ignored me because they don't like me and they're annoyed right now. Like, I could have created this whole story. And no, I did create this whole story, but I just ignored it. And I was like, I have to reach out. Like, follow up is absolutely necessary to make this happen.
So you flew to England.
Yes.
You met the producer.
Yes.
And you recorded how many? I mean, you had songs ready to go, and
yes.
You've never done this before. So hold on a second. You're a singer-songwriter, but you're also a music school teacher and a college graduate. And like, had you ever done this before? How did you step into, you got on this plane to Nowhereville, kind of? Not that England is Nowhereville, but do you have family there? Did you know people?
I have family in London, but I don't have family in Hastings. Hastings is about 2 hours away.
Okay.
So yeah, and I spent 3 weeks with the producer and his partner, and you know, even my whole family, they were like, wait, you're doing what? You're going to another country and you're staying with these people, you don't know them. And it was great. It was an awesome experience. It was wonderful. We just woke up in the morning and did music, and then had lunch and did some more music, and then had dinner and did more music, and I went sightseeing, and it was just like this wonderful, magical experience. Like, he had a couple gigs, he took me on the gigs, I sang, like, it was amazing.
What do you receive when you're willing to play big?
Big results.
Exactly.
And
right?
I'm in the middle of this right now because with my release party and, you know, everything that's related to this release, it has required me to spend a lot more money. It's another big investment. And I did not want to go through the stress of another crowdfunding campaign for this.
Right.
So a lot of it is like me putting things on my credit card. And I'm just like, I don't know. But like, my history has been, every time I've made a big investment in myself, there's always been a big return. And it doesn't always come exactly how I think it's going to come, but I'm just like trusting the process. And I'm like, well, I got to play big.
So, you know, talk a little bit about this journey to self-love. Okay. Because, you know, we have a lot of women listeners, and I know for myself, I have been riddled with self-doubt, lack of confidence. I do a lot of coaching around that today. The strong belief in ourselves, which is often questioned. I remember when I was going through coach training and we needed to come up with, you know, what our gremlin was, and everybody's like, oh, I have to work on this. I was like, oh my God, that's so easy. I'm like, I'm stupid. Like that's, you know, I'm just stupid. And, you know, when I shared it, people were like, you're kidding, right? And I'm like, no. And we all have some levels of self-doubt. Sometimes, you know, I know for me, and other people have shared this with me as well, you know, you're working and you might write an idea, you might be on a phone call, a conference call, whatever, and you're like, something comes out of you, whether it be in writing or whether it be verbally, and like you're looking over your shoulder, said, where'd that come from? You know, where did that come from? Mm-hmm. So can you share, you said this was your whole life.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is probably a cultural thing, but my parents, when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of positive reinforcement just in their parenting style. It was a lot of negative reinforcement. So I knew when I did something wrong. There wasn't a lot of praise when I did something correctly. So there was a little bit of like self-esteem stuff from there. And then I was bullied a lot in school. Just my family is on the hairy side. So I had a little peach fuzz above my lip. So I remember being in elementary school and, you know, like I'd be on the van or the bus and kids would just be like, oh my gosh, you have a mustache. And like, aww. You know, like it was cringy.
It hurts. It hurt.
It did. So that happened all throughout elementary school. Then I got to middle school and it got worse. I remember just being in an art class and like the cool kid just grabbed all his friends and they just kind of stood around me and he pointed and he was like, oh, look at Cindy. She has a mustache and a beard and sideburns and just like, and for the 7th grade, it was every day. I was called ugly. I was stupid. This kid like threw a box of cereal at me from the school bus window. Like it was just a mess. So like my self-esteem was just shot. And then like even going home and complaining about being bullied, my parents, they just didn't, I guess they didn't take me seriously. You know, cause I go home and I'm like, Dad, they're telling me I'm ugly. He's like, you believe that? What's wrong with you? Stop it. And so, you know, I just felt like my feelings, they were kind of diminished and trivialized.
So how have you, you know, obviously your songs, your writing has been a huge therapy for you, but how do you get it started from going from that, you know, can't look at yourself in the mirror. And by the way, you know, listeners, let me just tell you to definitely click on Cindy's website and she'll give you all the links and they're in the show notes again, but she's absolutely magnificent. Okay.
Thank you.
So, yes, you are. And where does that, like, from the experience come to the music in the last few minutes that we have?
The music has been, like you said, my therapy. I've realized that in order for me to reach the goals that I have, because, you know, since that age, I've had this like dream of, you know, being a star and winning the Grammy. And I realized, hey, you can't do that if you have low self-esteem. Like, it's not going to happen. So like get in some therapy, do some body work, do what you have to do to deal with your issues so that you can, you know, reach your dreams. And all of, you know, as an adult, I realized that a lot of my self-esteem issues were coming up in my personal relationships. And as I worked through those in personal relationships, those turned into the songs. Like that turned into the music. Like the music was written to help me heal this stuff. And sometimes when I wrote the songs, it wasn't even 100% authentic. So like, for example, Irresistible Me, I was very much struggling with self-esteem while I wrote that. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that the song actually became true for me. So a lot of these songs were written as like mantras to help me get through something. And yes,
and I have to say, Irresistible Dream is the music on her success story. That's what you get.
Mm-hmm.
So what tips do you have for women out there and I think it doesn't matter if you're a business owner, if you're an executive, if you're on an executive track. I think there's something about you that eludes a woman leader, because you have created lofty goals for yourself and never let anything hold you back. And I think that's about leadership.
Thank you. I think my biggest tip is get a coach. I started working with my coach, Jonay Williams, in 2015, and she's like a mirror for me. She has been like, she's good for checking my self-esteem issues. So whenever I make business decisions that are rooted in insecurity, she will call me on it and be like, nope, you need to increase your rates in your business. You need to put contracts in place. Like, you know, part of the reason why my personal like teaching business is stable and successful and sustains me is because of the fact that I have a coach. So basically she doesn't allow the little insecurities that pop up here and there to rule my life. And I feel like, you know, working with a coach, you're working with someone who's like on a higher vibration, and they're like literally pulling you from wherever you are. And they're like, no, you're going to get on this higher level. So that has been, that's honestly my biggest bit of advice. Get a coach and listen.
Yeah, well, you know, and I love that you say that, obviously being a coach, but I can tell you from the years of clients I've had, they're like, Ivy, I wish we would have, you know, we're thrilled to work with you. We just wish we would have started listening sooner, because, and it's true, because I've had coaches, and I will always have some sort of coaches in my own world, because I believe in it so strongly. I don't just do this for others. I believe in the entire concept and philosophy of it. And I think it's vitally important. You know, but I could look at my own coaches and like, yeah, I told you that 6 months ago. Yeah, I told you that 9 months ago. And it's a matter of when we're ready to hear and implement, as much as you and I are both big implementers.
Yes.
It's that knowing, okay, now's the action.
Yes, absolutely.
So
and then,
go ahead.
Sorry. Part of that whole thing is figuring out when you have resistance to listening, where that resistance is coming from, and what is like the limiting belief underneath that prevents you from actually listening. Yeah.
So on that note, I love the tip. I adore you, you know that. And, you know, guys, I have to say, you know, I talk a lot about relationships, and we're going to be doing a content episode coming up all about the value of relationships in business and life. So stay tuned for that in the next few weeks. But here's the deal. Cindy and I were connected based on a mutual contact. The reason her song is on the opening of her success story is Cindy knows somebody else on my team, and then they introduced us, and then we got to know each other. And she said yes, and I said, oh my goodness, let's meet. And we didn't even know we were both in the New York area. And so we got on the phone and started talking. And I said, hey, I'm speaking at this conference in New Jersey. You ought to come. And I was like, wait, why don't you sing there? And then the next thing, you know, I connected her with the founder, and she did the opening. And I don't just preach the value of relationships. I truly, you know, take a note and actually draw a little map of some of the greatest relationships that you've had. And Cindy, thank you for being one of the greatest of mine.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for being one of the greatest of mine too.
So how do we find, we're releasing the 19th, 20th, right? Releasing 19th, the launch party's on the 20th.
Yes.
Of October.
Yes.
How do we find, and how do we tune into you, and how do we find more about the mask?
Okay, so the website is cindyrainne.com. So that's CindyRainne.com. I'm on all the social media under Cindy Rainne. So Instagram at Cindy Rainne, Facebook, search Cindy Rainne, YouTube, Cindy Rainne Music.
It's all in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And feel free to reach out on any of those platforms to find out more.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. For listeners, if you enjoyed this episode of Her Success Story, please leave us a note. Let us know what else you want to hear, who else you would like to be in touch with. We love interviewing great women and great people out there. Thank you for joining us. Till next time.